Presented by That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster, this is Shonen Jumping the Gun, the show where we set our sights on the first chapter of a manga and decide if it's a misfire or a bullseye.
Let's see how many rounds are in this magazine.
On today's episode of Freelance Manga Police, the Irregular of the Royal Academy of Magic, with special guest star MaxyBee! Yay! Welcome, everybody. It's me, your noble magic caster, Kermit the Grog, here with my Scrublord Edgelord co-host, Brad, Isekai Sensei Sama. Brad, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine.
And super assassin extraordinaire special guest star, MaxyBee. MaxyBee, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Hi, Editor Brad here. Just wanted to drop a quick note, as I'm sure you've noticed that our audio is a bit crunchy. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties, and this was the most we could recover. But be sure to subscribe and follow, as Maxie actually recorded 2 episodes with us, and the next one didn't have any problems. Additionally, this episode had a lot of extra content that is going in a bonus episode up on our Patreon, which is available to all tiers.
But today with our special episode, we are reading a series that MaxyBee has suggested for us, which is, as I said at the top, the Irregular of the Royal Academy of Magic. Maxie, can you tell us why you wanted to cover this manga on this podcast?
Okay, so 2 primary reasons. Number 1 is that the magazine it runs in, Weekly Young Jump, is having a bit of a renaissance over the last few years. It kind of lost its identity in the mid-10s, it wasn't really going anywhere, but you had some hits. You had your Golden Kamuis, your Kaguya-sama Love is Wars, but it didn't really have anything that felt like it had a real identity, and now it's this place that's full of just these really inspired series, a massive variety of content, a lot of baseball comics. But this particular series stands out because it is the only light novel adaptation in there. And so a part of me was like, I really would like to know how this fits into this sort of more daring world for the magazine. And the other reason was I couldn't think of an isekai series, which I really was tempted to pick for obvious reasons. And
you don't have to appease him. Brad is the co-host on this. This one's mine. I am very... He's the isekai boy.
Fuck up. I can't help it. I have to make everyone feel good, you know? But this is by the writer of several isekai, so I was like, this is close enough. This counts.
Oh, definitely close enough.
It was close enough. In fact, that he had already read it. Because he's read everything.
I only read the first chapter.
Yeah, you get to activate Future Vision this time.
Recently, I only read the first chapter.
So, once we get through our summary and we get to the discussion, Maxie, please tell us if you've solved your question of what is it doing here in Young Jump.
Absolutely.
Cool. So with that out of the way, the trivia. I don't have the start date. I have hazy things.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to do that, and then I'll toss it.
I mean, it started in 2021. I can narrow it down to the year.
So that's what I had, because it was like, hi, here's the trivia section. The information on this is hazy because there is another far more popular manga light novel with a very incredibly similar name, which made Googling for this really difficult. So I have the vague sense that it started 3-ish years ago, maybe 4-ish now, I guess. And it seemingly had 50 chapters out that were fan-translated, which is one of the reasons why this is a Freelance Manga Police episode. And as stated, it's from a light novel, if the name didn't already tip that off, and also Maxie telling us. Maxie, do you have any other trivia on this very strange series?
Okay, so
hard to figure out series?
There's a few interesting things. The artist for this is Fumi Nagasuki, who has done nothing else of interest, just pretty much been chucked on this. Pretty typical for light novel adaptations to go and just have an artist who's available and can do work. But the writer of it is one Yusuro... God, believe it or not, I'm really bad at pronouncing Japanese, despite it being like something I have to read constantly. Yusura Kankitsu, who is known for a whole bunch of different isekai light novels and manga adaptations, including Isekai Elf no Dorai-chan and Isekai Monster Breeder, which are Names. One of them, I think,
Yeah.
maybe gives away what it's about a little bit.
Oh, have you read those? Do you know of these? Isekai Sensei Sama? Be
I'm not
honest.
sure, but in all likelihood, yes.
When in doubt, he's read them, if not at least heard of them, if they are recent.
A lot of times I have trouble when the Japanese name is used because being an English speaker, I latch onto the English name much better.
Same
so.
as these.
Well, their biggest one, which is known, is called Skill Taker's World Domination, Building a Slave Harem from Scratch.
Wow! What a fitting title for what we talk about in the podcast.
I think I recognize that one.
The John Brown intensifies.
Just as a quick aside, because this is not about this
Yes,
series, but
please, toss this over, because you told me this before we recorded.
about the series that is sounds very similar to this one, which is the Irregular at Magic High School. We just looked this up. It's a very popular series. There's an anime of it, multiple seasons and everything. The reason it's so difficult to find information on the series we're covering today is because there are 19 different stories.
Spin-offs.
There's 19 different spin-offs for the Irregular at Magic High School. I'm just going down the list like, oh, there's another. Oh my God, another one. I was like, what is going on here?
An SEO Thor's hammer strike of no one will ever find this other one in English.
You say that, but it's so much more than Sword Art Online. It's insane.
Really? Dang.
19. Like, who's doing this?
Clearly there's an audience for it. I don't know. Maxie, what did you say that it was like it was like either an alternate title or the tagline that was in English that you said that I liked that gave it a lot more like character before we delve into the summary.
The actual full title,
yes,
because you'll have things for a secondary title between tildes underneath the main title with a lot of these series. So this is the Irregular of the Royal Academy of Magic. The strongest sorcerer from the slums is unrivaled in the School of Royals.
Like, still very light novel-y. I think it's just because I like the school from slums and stuff, and you get that, like, very Marvel alliteration, and I'm a sucker for that.
It immediately makes it class warfare, which, as an English person, I'm all about.
Yeah! As Americans, we are also about, but we're newly getting into it more. And with all those S sounds, we're going to get into my Kermit's patented speedrun summary of this first chapter of the Irregular of the Royal Academy of Magic, which I appreciated being a normal manga length and not a normal first chapter that we cover, which is like 70 pages. We open with the information that magic is a mystery of the world that can be only used by those of certain bloodlines. The haves and have-nots is the law of the land. A rough-looking child is beaten on the rainy streets for stealing by two nobles, as they are called. The kid has dug through garbage to eat to survive, but they would never understand that, he thinks, as he contemplates his coming death at their hands. Just as he's about to be killed, a magical symbol appears underneath him, and a spell is unleashed. The nobles are baffled. A peasant can use magic? They freak out that he's from some cursed bloodline. In the confusion, the boy runs off with every fiber of his being, just keeps running for days on end. Imagine that scene from Forrest Gump, but it's sad instead of uplifting. He just keeps running and running and running. Finally, he awaits in a snowy alley for death to finally take him, but a voice calls his attention, a tough but distinguished-looking older man. He offers Protag-kun a choice, die like a dog on the street or become a killer. Protag-kun accepts the offer, and the old man asks his name, which we learn is Ars or Aris? That was something I was confused by.
Arus.
Arus? Maybe he was just so tired he couldn't get the U out, because he literally...
A-R-U-S is how it's been transliterated in English.
That's how he says it later, but in this moment it's just like A-R-S, but also, again, he's passing out as he's saying this.
Hungry boy.
Yeah. The old man declares him his son. Cut to now, 10 years later, as we see Aris dressed as a cyberpunk mid-2000s emo kid, wielding a Glock as he gunned down multiple men in the street. This is his life as a killer on the mean, messed-up streets of Parakanos, the Black City. He helps keep them clean at the behest of his handlers. We see him now coming upon his quarry, a 2-star, yeah, there's already a ranking system, noble who is very corrupt and evil, a real baddie, I assure you. It appears his quarry already knows about Aris, calling him the Nighthawk. Aris is bummed about this because it means he's not truly a great assassin if somebody has a name for him. The man has rigged a trap for his killer, hiding guards of his own around the room, But ours is too cool and uses his cool magic to turn his coat into a shield, blocking all the bullets and easily dispatching all the guards with his gun. They share a short chat before Aris puts a bullet between his eyes because he's so cool and capable, even though he's a young teen, fawn over his generic angsty design and swoon because he breaks all the rules as a non-noble capable of using magic. What a rebel.
I don't think that last part was in there.
It was in my heart. So we've gotten through the summary. I will open the floor. I think people can already feel my vibes from that summary. Who would like to take first swing at how they felt about the Irregular at the Magic Academy?
It was
Brad, just
kind
go for
of
it.
weird. Like,
Maxie, you're the guest. You can take first. You can take first hit.
this is just a pregnant pause, and we're like, what do I want to say?
Yeah.
It's really weird reading the first chapter of a manga where it feels more like, fittingly, the first chapter of a book, because we didn't really get the full setup. This is about a Royal Academy of Magic, in theory. It's in the title. And it's like we basically just get as far as what happened to the kid. Kid survives. Kid becomes older, gets bird mask, and shoots people, which I'm fully behind. I think that's great. I think more Magic series should just have guns in, because why not?
Agreed. Big agreed.
I
it's
wonder what's going to happen next.
Is the Academy... He seemingly already knows magic. Is the Academy in between him getting picked up and him being this killer?
No.
I beseech the heavens.
Wait,
No.
I don't know.
Future Vision. If you say
think-
Future Vision and make a silly noise, you can have information.
I think if you can use magic, you can use magic in this world, and presumably he's been taught by his... Well, would his handler have been able to teach him? Because it's a cursed bloodline, it'd have to be related. I'm
I
left
think it's
with
just
a lot
like
of
magic,
questions.
and they just get to use it. But also, there was like a thing that like maybe some peasants can if they try, but they usually like don't get the opportunity. So like that, it's weird that man isn't followed up on when they cut forward. He's just this like weird, like he looks distinguished, like he could be a noble. I don't think he's got. They have these little like buttons on their shirt to denote how noble they are with the ranking system.
Which would make things so much easier if we just did that in real life.
Yeah. You have to wear a pin for every $1 million you have. Are you covered in metal? Get ready to eat metal.
You'd get once you 10 million, you get a bigger one.
Yeah.
Counts, and then $1 billion, you get. It's like how copper, gold, silver coins work. You
They just have to. They get bigger and bigger
Yeah.
things they have to wear.
No, I mean,
It's your catnip. It's your catnip and my anti-catnip.
it's what I'm into. I don't know. It presses the right button. I don't know.
I can't disrespect it. I'm legally and contractually obligated.
There's something about the sort of like someone being treated poorly and then taking the power back for themselves that really speaks to me. And honestly, like as much as you and Ben as well, like
Our other co-host Ben.
are like, oh, slavery, how can you like this is exactly what those kind of setups can give you, of like, not that a lot of them do that, but the whole thing where you have someone who's treated really poorly for one reason or another, and then they either gain the power or find that they have the power or whatever it is to start taking down that system.
I want that. I want that power fantasy. One Piece is somewhat that power fantasy,
Yeah.
and I think it's because I want the character to have character and him to not just be an angsty puppet.
Well, I mean,
He's a vessel. He's a vessel.
yet.
He is a
He does have
vessel. He's a
personality.
vessel for you, the reader, to insert yourself in as an edgy little teen or 40-year-old.
But here's the thing with getting to wonder about this stuff is, like, we've not seen him go to the to this Academy of Magic yet.
Yeah.
It could be that in a sort of fish out of water situation, we actually get like a lot of interesting edge cases that flesh him out as he has to deal with being around people of a class he hates, whilst also, he's not gone to school. He's not used to any life of luxury. Clearly,
Yeah.
he almost died as a child. Relatable content. I really, if I was reading this as a book, I would be excited about the questions. I'd be like, this is all stuff that I'm going to learn as I keep reading. As a manga, like, knowing that this comes out on like a weekly basis, this would frustrate the hell out of me, not knowing where it's going to go, what flesh they're going to put on his bones. But he is wearing a sort of jacket that, like, 15-year-old me in 2005 would be all over, so I couldn't say if it's good or bad.
Like, I mean, this is the joy of this show, where literally we have one chapter, and it's like, I've read a lot of first chapters, and so many of them can make or break it, and nothing I was shown here was like, oh, this is unique and interesting and something that I would want to continue, but I'm a fussy little Kermit, and I have very little patience for things.
I have to turn off future vision here. If this is going to follow the tropes of someone with extraordinary powers goes to a school, because that's a trope that's been done so many times, especially in isekai, but even isekai adjacent stuff, it happens all the time. If it follows those same plot beats, there's going to be multiple people, usually 2 or 3, that he meets at school that have interesting circumstances. There'll be a girl who's a noble, but something is up with that, and she's got to prove herself. And then there'll be a commoner girl who, how is she in there? She's got weird circumstances too. And there'll be the one guy who's going to be his friend and sort of try to set himself up as a rival, except he's way less powerful, so he can't actually be a rival, but he'll be there to support him.
You literally just described Black Clover.
Well, I mean, it works. It's a well-worn trope.
Yeah.
And the reason it's well-worn is because it works.
It works.
Generic doesn't mean bad, it just means you know what's going to happen. It's
right.
fine.
Yeah. I guess it is the balance between myself and my co-host Brad that, like, I am very, like, I get annoyed by generic things, and he embraces them and loves them, and I feel like somewhere in the middle of that we find like something.
If it was always just like the same thing, I wouldn't be into it. You get enough differentiation.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, that's what they're doing that's interesting. And it's the familiarity coupled with the novelty that
little extra piece of
it makes all
this cookie has almonds in it instead of chocolate chips.
Yes.
Yeah. In our grand baking metaphor for all of this.
I'm not into chocolate chip cookies.
You're not into he's not. I have to make him no chip cookies. This is Brad's existence.
Is it because of the chocolate or because of the texture? What's going on?
He just doesn't like it. He just likes regular cookies with no chips in it. They're not sugar cookies.
I don't mind chocolate chip cookies, but I don't know. Anyway,
it's a character trait. If that was a character trait in manga, it would tell you something.
Chocolate in your country is a very different world to mine. So
well,
it could
very
be
true. Very true.
But I don't think that's
it.
I like chocolate other stuff. Anyway, yeah, I think I forget who touched on it real quick before, but they have guns here.
I do love that I did love guns. The guns is what made me excited, and he just like pulls out his freaking Glock, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I wanted.
And I think this is in this series, that's one of the differentiation points, because it's like, hey, there's magic, and you can do all this cool stuff with magic, and then we just use guns. It's like, what's going on?
That's what I love about Shadowrun.
It makes you want to find out more.
I'll admit that part made me excited because I like guns in places they're not supposed to, like in series they're not supposed to be.
And it wasn't even like, oh, just the dark assassin people who can't use magic use guns. It's like, no, this guy's a noble and he's got a gun. He can use magic. Why isn't he just using magic? So, what did you guys think about the art style in this? It wasn't, I don't think it was doing anything crazy, but I thought it was very...
It's fine.
The word I want to use is clean.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's right.
The word I would use is workmanlike. Like, this is someone who was given a job and they have done that job to the letter. Like, it's immaculately told. It's very well told. The storytelling's good. The art is, again, very
clear.
Clean. And the conveyance is fine. But you're not going to necessarily freak out to, like, an amazing moment. You know, it's just kind of like, this looks nice.
But there's something to these first chapters, especially when, like, a lot of what we're reading is new artists and authors in Jump, where it's like, there's sometimes where it's like, I don't understand exactly what's going on and the placement of people and who's talking, and I forget that when I read these ones where it's like, this is generic, but Workman is like the perfect way to put it, Maxie, where it's like, this does exactly what it needs to do, and you don't have those moments of like, oh, I thought he was over here, or like, oh, I thought this person was talking. Like, there's never a moment of like, I'm confused what's happening.
Yeah, it's like you're not going to get bonus points for doing something new and interesting, but you get full marks for conveyance. During the, I guess I'll say 2 fight scenes that happen, the camera angles and everything, I was actually pretty impressed with how it kept everything focused, and like you didn't get confused as to like what was going on. And like in the later one where those guys ambush him, and it's like, oh, I know exactly where everyone is.
Yeah.
This guy already got set up. And I honestly think that's sort of rare in manga. At least a lot of the ones I read.
Well,
Certainly from people who don't have any other works under their belt.
Yeah.
Like this could be the sort of laying out you'd expect from someone who would be storyboarding an animation or something. You know, like
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah, had
very,
done this for a
very
while, that
clear sense of
understood-
facial awareness.
Yeah.
the choreography and the staging of it all, which is, yeah, as we've said, not always a given. So I'll give it props for that.
Yeah. Well,
Is there anything else major anybody wishes to discuss?
how about you guys tell me where you think this might go?
Oh. I mean, my big question is, does he go to is the academy in the middle, and we're just seeing this end point of him being the super killer to tantalize us? Or is it the thing where it's like, well, he's antisocial and they send him to school, but he's already the best, and he's a dark, brooding killer, so we get to see how that plays out. So that sounds more compelling.
If this does the same thing that other series that do super hired guy goes to school thing, what will happen is he will be going to school for one of 2 reasons. The first reason being, going to school is a mission that he is doing.
Yes.
The second reason being, oh, he's retired and we want you to live a normal life. So
What if
go
he
to
loves school like Kill Blue?
Yeah, right.
Whoa, I never thought about education before. This is great.
Yeah, so I don't know where it'll go. I mean, I reckon we've probably got like another chapter just to establish some more things. We need to know some more about the guy who saved him and what his deal is.
Yeah, it was weird how quickly they cut away from him.
And then, like, presumably at some point we need some sort of expanded cast, like you know, yeah, you've got to either give him a Royal Guard with or a meat-headed idiot friends. Usually the sort of thing you get in these series.
Classics.
So it's like because he needs a foil. He's clearly a very cool guy. You need more than just a cool guy.
Maybe he'll get more. I don't know. Future vision. Man, Maxie, I'm a Philistine. Is it normal that non-jump, like, I'm, like, mostly I read Jumpin' on the app because that is what's available to me because I've got my baby hands and my baby tablet. Is it normal for all manga to have, like, a really long first chapter for them to set things up? Because this one was definitely, like, a normal chapter length and not like, oh, this is the first chapter. We have to do, like, here is the pilot that's longer than a regular episode.
Most manga, especially in we'll say weekly magazines, so this is weekly Young Jump, so it fits that production cycle. The first chapter will normally be between 40 and 60 pages, 60 being a massive outlier. Jump Plus and stuff has kind of spoiled us now because the online-only format means people are like churning out 100, 200 page
They can do whatever they want. Yeah.
Normal. Why not? So this was a little bit on the shorter end, but I think that's more typical of novel adaptations because a lot of the beats are going to match the beats of the original work. So you could go and say, oh, our first chapter needs to be 10 pages longer, but that puts us in the middle of chapter 2 of the novel. What's the point of that? So it's kind of...
Interesting.
The decisions involved, it often requires a savvy editor to make the call on, do we have a small chapter? Do we run 2 chapters for the first week? Or do we just mess with things entirely, create new content, and become something completely different to the original work? And this editor just clearly went down the route of let's keep it nice and straight, we'll do what we need to, and not mess about.
Yeah.
I will say, it is a breath of fresh air after all of the other first chapters that we've read in the past couple months, where the first chapter doesn't just do everything all at once and
Yeah.
way too full.
But this one feels like the other side where, like, it doesn't feel like it cuts off too soon. Like, it's like, oh, we're cut off in the middle of something. It's just like, I feel like I just need a little bit, like, I just need
It's
one.
almost a tease.
It's too
Because they're like,
cheesy. Like, I
hey.
don't need the full meal. I just need,
Right.
I need a little bit more exposition outside of the, like, magic world building, nobles, poor, yada, yada, yada.
yeah. They've really, they established the world, but they didn't establish the plot. They're like, hey, here's a thing. This is going on. Oh, wait, we called this at the Royal Academy. He's not at the Royal Academy. What's going on?
I should read next week, I guess.
Hope someone will get fired for that blunder. So your main point of comparison for this, really, as it being a Young Jump series, would be Dogs Red, which you've covered before.
Yes.
And so you think same magazine, but the level of stuff being stuffed in is still so much lighter compared to Dogs Red. Like, although also is just kind of character flashback, get them to where they need to be so you know who they are. Actually, they're kind of similar.
Yeah. And although I will say, I think Dogs Red ended a bit more abruptly in their first chapter than this did.
Yeah, because it's an author who knows what they're doing and has status and already wrote this before. They can just go, fuck it. This is what I'm writing. You know there's more. So I guess with the end of that, I do want to ask you a question, though, is now that we've had at least from the first chapter, do you have any new answers to your mystery of what is this doing in Young Jump?
No, that's the thing. Like, because everything is like award-winning level, sort of stunning at this point, and this isn't enough to really understand why. But it is also so competent and so polished that I'm just like, maybe it's just in there because it's good, which isn't impossible. You know, that makes sense. Like, Young Jump, most magazines run about 20 series. Young Jump runs over 30, and it does that by letting people have time off whenever they goddamn want it.
Nice.
And so there is room for just a series that's there and does fine, which is kind of insane, because I'm used to Shonen Jump, where you can have a really good series eat shit because kids don't like it, you know? Like,
yeah.
the world of comics for adults, it's amazing.
This is obviously not like anything to do with how it's actually doing with its target audience in Japan. But in the place that we read it, it's rated at 7 out of 10, which is not good.
7 out of 10, solid.
It's not.
Passing.
It's not.
I mean, that's above 3 stars. Most things I read don't even make 3 stars. So, like,
Oh my gosh.
So, and this is something that Ben and I have explored a lot on Heroin Addiction with the manhwa and community ratings for that stuff, is if something is rated below an 8, it's not really any good.
Well, what you
Also,
need to
it's like-
find
it's
is
like
things that
IGN
aren't
rules.
rated.
What?
so it's like IGN rules, you know, 7 is bad.
Yeah, basically,
bad.
because the way that most people rate things is just based on their feeling. And so if they like something, it's going to be 9 or 10.
Yeah, it's usually a game of extremes and not like let's take a moment to think, is this a 6? Is this a 7? Is this an 8? And this is why rating systems are a mess, because nobody's working from the same script.
No.
It's why making flop pool votes is difficult, because everybody has a different feeling. I'm like, I need to, like, this is a gut feeling inside of me, but I have to communicate that to other humans so they know that we can agree on it. It might not be good. We just have to agree on it.
So I am looking at the breakdown of the votes here, and I don't know if you can see
Oh,
that.
yeah,
I can't read
It is the 10 ratings are the most. The people rated it 10 the most. However, quite a few people rated it 7 and below. And so I would say this is probably one of those ones where, for a certain group of people, like me, it hits all the buttons and it's great. But overall, the general audience is not on board.
Here's my theory. In the meal that is a magazine, this is the breadsticks, because you can't eat all entrees. You need a little bit of other things. You need some just basic bread, to
Yeah, I think this is probably more the soup, but yeah, your analogy still
soup,
holds.
yeah.
Yeah.
a simple dish made well. Nothing crazy, because if all you eat are like the high-end cooking stuff,
Yeah.
you're much to your heroin addiction thing, where you will be reading or have already read the not good ones supposedly. Like, you have to expand your palate. Not to say this is bad, but it helps. Like, and when we found it recording this episode, this podcast, where it's like we record them in bunches, and one I don't like, and then one it's like, oh wow, after reading that, I have a much different opinion of this one now. And it helps you kind of understand better the intricacies of like, oh, this one's better because it does this thing that you weren't paying attention to.
Right.
So, and I guess with all that, let's get to our flop poll picks. So I've updated the flop poll for the new year, so I will be throwing to a new thing of Truxan will explain the rules of the range.
Hey everybody, it's me, it's Truxan, your friendly neighborhood Truxan. It's Truxan's Rule of Range. So we're at the bottom, we got Dead Walking, dead in 20 chapters or less, an early grave, like Do Retry or Candy Flurry. Next up from that, we got a flop, granted a stay of execution, under 50 chapters, like a Fabricant 100, or a Doron Dororon, whatever that is. Next up is It'll Live, hangs on just past flop zone, sub 120 chapters, like PPPPPP, or Magu-chan. Then we got Solid, series that does well but hasn't reached its true popularity, like an Akane Banashi or Undead Unluck. Can get an anime. Then we got the hit, truly popular with an anime and hundreds of chapters, like a Black Clover or an Assassination Classroom. And finally, oh my gosh, the Supernova, industry shaker and shaper. Readers want to be with them, other manga want to be like them, like a Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen. And that's Truxan's Rules of the Range. Back to you.
Thanks, Truxan.
Well, as our very special guest, I think it's only right that Maxie goes first.
It's weird because I've not got a lot for this, but it's solid. I feel like this is just really like. I mean, it's solid. It's got a good foundation. So yeah,
Solid?
I also would call this solid.
I want to call it an It'll Live, because I think it'll live. And do no more.
So, based on our ratings, are we going to keep reading it?
No, I'm not, but that's not for me.
I think I will. I've fallen into the habit of picking up like a lot of Young Jump stuff recently, and like this is currently 11 volumes in. That's achievable because the yen is worthless right now. I can get those volumes and I can read them. That will work out. And their economy, their suffering is my gain. So yeah, I will keep up with this.
Capitalism, it comes back.
So yeah, that's we need to preface this with the fact that there are quite a few chapters out already.
This is where my not ability to Google very well messed me up, because as we said, this is fans translated, which actually the fan translation is something I usually get down on, was pretty solid, at least for this first chapter. I'm usually very sensitive to them, and I thought it did its job. There was seemingly 50 chapters up, but that felt like too clean a number, and that just felt like what was out.
48.
Fan translated? 40.
No, sorry, 42.
42. Wow. Number keeps getting smaller. Is this still going, Maxie? Do you know if this is still running in the magazine?
It is still going, and curiously, it's supposed to actually have chapters up to 90 out, but I wonder if it's like a group that doesn't put them on manga decks.
That's a thought.
Yeah, the scanlations for this have not updated in 2 years, to my chagrin.
So either they're somewhere else, or whoever was doing them stopped doing them, and nobody's picked up the ball.
And I'll just say, if you're a scanlation group and you don't upload to manga decks, what the hell are you doing? What is the point? Why? What are you doing?
I mean, I can't find it. I was trying to Google for this series. That other series its SEO is too powerful.
It's just people who really like ad revenue. Which
they really want you to know that they're doing it, and they get internet clout for poorly auto-translating stuff. Hi, you've hit another of our hot topic points we talk about on the podcast a lot, which is localization and its many forms.
It is available up to chapter 102.
Wow.
But you have to go to the place that is making it, because they are one of those sort of people who, you know, it's they love the person's work, they respect it, but they would also like to make money off of someone else's work. So, big thumbs up.
I refuse.
Yeah. No, it's the whole thing that lets me like co-sign manga decks when I'm like friends with people who work in the industry who are very anti-piracy is at least no one makes money off of it.
Yeah.
I cannot co-sign on an ad-supported way of doing it. It's like
I always say support the official release. Like, there's so much stuff that has no official English release, and as far as I'm concerned, manga decks, Bato, whatever. But like, as at the very second that you can actually go out and purchase that, do it.
You can get volumes of it in Japanese off of Bookwalker for $4.44. Like,
Yeah, but how much is shipping?
Also,
no shipping,
how much
digital
time
only.
How much time is it going to take me to learn Japanese?
Yeah. How much do I have to message Ben to go, Ben, what does this page say?
You just have to want it enough. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the entire reason I can kind of get by with reading, at least I'd hope so, working as research for Shonen Flop, is purely that I wanted to read stuff badly enough, and scanlators just do not like stuff the same way I do. They are not quite as perverse, perhaps. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think we hit everything, right?
Yeah. I think we hit all of the points. So
Shonen jumping the very long-barreled gun today.
Yeah.
It's fine. I know. I was happy. I was attending for this. He gets thanks.
Max, is there anything else you want to get into before we wrap up this episode?
No, I'm happy. I'm sorry I've rambled so much.
No, you're good. We had a great time. Like, I already accepted that, like, as a guest on, and we're excited to talk to you, so it was going to happen. Yeah. So,
good. You better be having a good time. I insist.
Thank you, everybody, again for listening. This has been covering of the Irregular of the Royal Academy of Magic, here with special guest MaxyBee. And Brad, fill me up with them plugs.
As always, we want to thank Sugoi Mart for partnering with us. Sugoi Mart's a retailer of Japanese snacks, drinks, toys, and merch. They got a lot of cool stuff you can't get outside of Japan. You can check the link in the description, or use code APR15 at checkout to get 15% off your first order, which also helps us out. And of course, you can let us know what you think on social media, which you can find links for on our website, animepodcasterreincarnation.com. You can also leave comments about these podcast episodes and also find other posts and reviews. And we've got a Discord where you can chat with us. You can also check out our Patreon. Supporters get perks like getting to vote on which series to cover on heroin addiction, as well as getting the high-quality stereo version of the podcast early. And we'd love to hear what perks you'd like. And of course, we got to shout out our patrons. So at our Reincarnator tier, we've got Cake Dwarf and Moon. And at our Merchant tier, we have Kill Hour. And last and definitely not least, at our Commoner tier, we've got Rena.
Thank you, patrons.
Thank you so much to our patrons. And with that, Maxie, have you got any plugs you want to do?
Just if you want to go and find me on any sort of socials, the only place you can find me is on Blue Sky at MaxyBee. I am also on the Shonen Flop Discord and am one of their 2 researchers for their podcast episodes, of which you can find my extensive research notes and trivia over on their Patreon. Other than that, you can also find a podcast I do that is on hiatus at the moment called Radio Gundam on Spotify or any other platforms. It's pretty good. It should be back in like a month. We've been recording but not releasing. It's an interesting situation. I had a baby half a year ago. It's hard to make things, you know?
Wow, congrats. Congrats on being a parent.
It's great. A double parent now. You get like different stars on your top, you see, to show how many children you have. And that's it, really. That's how easy it is to find me. It's how easy it is to find the things I do. And thank you again for having me.
Thank you, everybody, once again for listening, and thank you, MaxyBee, for joining us as our very special guest star. You can hear more of us on our mainline podcast, That Time I Got Reincarnated, in the same world as an anime podcaster. And get in, losers, we're going to Hot Topic!